Tim's American Beauty was made by Robust Tools, America's premier lathe manufacturer. Quality hardened tool rests and live centers too. Robust. Built to turn wood. Enjoyed for a lifetime.
Thompson Lathe Tools. Welcome to a new level of professional wood turning tools. Made by a wood turner for wood turners. We have made tops in the past here in the workshop. We love them. But this one's a little bit different. We're kind of stepping it up a notch. I'm not stringing you along either. That's because we're making a string pull top today. Now, the components of this are pretty simple. We're going to make a handle out of wenge, which is a really cool wood. So you're going to need a 1" by 1" by 12" blank for that. The handle is out of a piece of hickory, so you need about a 1" by 1" by about 4" piece of wood for that. And then the top, we're going to use Purple Heart today. This is some neat myrtle burl, I think. But anyway, you need a 3/8" dowel that's 5 inches long, and you need to get a blank that you drill a 3/8" hole in. The whole idea is we're going to put this stem in here and glue it, and then we're going to work on this. Since we're going to glue it, we're going to use some tight bond wood glue that'll hold it really well. We want to get that gluing now so we can go ahead and start turning the rest of our project and have this glue set up by the time we're ready to start turning the top part. You can be as messy as you want because the idea is to get the glue in there. Now, here's the cool thing. How do you know how much dowel rod to put through here? Well, I drilled a 1 1/4" hole into this wood. See? That goes all the way down in there. So I can be consistent now on the depth or the amount of protrusion I get from the dowel going through. So I just tap this down into the hole until it bottoms out. And there we go. That's how much we want hanging out, about 1 1/4". We're going to lose a little bit there. We're going to lose a little bit there. And this is a walnut dowel. Sometimes you have to be careful. Just don't go to a regular hardware store to buy your dowel rods because they're not exactly or precision diameter. So you want to get this from a wood turning or woodworking store where they specialize in things like that, because if it's not a tight fit on here, it won't work at all. But the first step we're going to do while that is drying is we're going to take our wenge here and we're going to go to the lathe and turn it just a little bit. Okay, we've got the wenge mounted between centers. And now I'm just going to do a touch of turning. The reason is I have to drill 2 holes in the wood. And no matter how hard you try, you're not going to get this blank mounted perfectly centered. Well, you might, but I know I'm not going to. So what I want to do by doing this is I'm turning the edges, and I can see now where the exact center of the piece of the wood is, because it's hard to see. This is a really dark piece of wood, but now I have rounded edges, right? And when I look here, I can see the flats on both sides, so I know where the center is now exactly on this. So what I want to do, I'm going to take a little ruler here. I'm going to make a 2" mark right here. So I want to drill my holes 2 inches back. Let's see. That is dead center right there. And then if I look over here, follow that down, dead center is going to be right here for that. The first hole I'm going to drill now is going to be a 10mm hole. The reason for that is because 10mm is just a little bit bigger than 3/8", which is the size of our dowel, and that way the top goes up in the hole and it's not too tight, not too loose, and it helps it spin. So I got to get this, push this down here just to make sure I'm centered before I turn the drill press on. I also have a piece of wood, you'll notice, underneath the wenge. And that's because wenge is pretty splintery, and I want to minimize tear out as much as possible. That's why I'm also doing this before I turn it, because if I did this on the lathe rounded it out and then brought it here to drill a hole, it could splinter on the finished surface that I had. That looks pretty good there, right there. So what I have to do now is we're going to switch up to a 1/2 inch drill bit right now, because those get hot. Because we need enough room now for the string to be able to hang onto the wood. In other words, you're going to wrap it around this post so it gets wider and wider. Well, I found out 1/2 inch is about what I can live with on this. So we're going to lock this in, and then I have to actually lower this so I can get this in here. It's really nice having a standing drill press in your shop. It makes so many things a lot easier. Okay, so that's locked in there. I'm going to bring this down. I'm going to find my center. This is a brad point bit too, so it has a really sharp tip on the end of it. So that looks centered right there. Pick this up. So it's easier to get it exactly where you want it on the wood. And you can see we're going right in line with that hole. Whoops. Always make sure you tighten your drill bit down. And again, that's why you watch me. You learn these things, huh? And then I are a professional. Well, I'm going to finish drilling this and I'll meet you back at the lathe. Okay, I finally got the hole drilled and we're back on the lathe. This is our handle, and it's really elegant. The whole idea of this project is to make something that's an heirloom quality gift, not just a top that'll be used for a couple times and thrown away. The wenge is a beautiful wood, almost looks like ebony when you're done. The only thing you have to watch out for this wood is it splinters very easily. Trust me, I know. We have the blank on the lathe between centers right now, so the first thing I want to do is rough it out. And I've already rotated it to make sure it's not going to hit the tool rest. And I'm going to pick the speed up because it's a spindle turning. It's not moving a lot of feet per second like a bowl would on here, bowl blank. But being a spindle, since it's smaller, you got to pick the speed up so you can get a cleaner cut. And now for those of you who are learning how to turn, you want to always make sure that you have the handle in by your hip. Then up here at the tool rest, when you get ready to contact the wood, make sure you touch the tool to the tool rest before you start cutting it at all. But anyway, what I've done by angling this is I have the knife edge of the tool angling up. If it's like this, it's going to be a scrape. Down here, it's going to cut. But anyway, I want to start about where I was earlier, about 2 inches, and go across. And I'm moving my body. So I'm leaning back to my left. I kind of build up some tension there, and then I let my body release out to the right. The other thing I'm doing is my finger right here is in this tool rest, and this is a beautiful curve that Robust, don't put your finger into the wood, that Robust put in here, because even people with really big hands can get their fingers under here, and that's a difficult thing to do for a lot of turners because the tool rests usually have a narrow area, a groove in there. So I can put my hand in here. This finger's a depth stop, so it's not going any further. So the way I lock it in is I pinch my fingers, and now that tool's not going to go in any further unless I release my grip and let it feed. So I'll come in and feed it a little bit more. There we go. I'm going to come back incrementally a little bit more each time and work my way back on the blank. Now if you do this, it's not round. You can hear it bouncing. I'm close though. What I want to make sure is that I don't go too narrow on this because it'll weaken the structure where the holes are drilled. It'll be too thin. So I want to be very careful going across there. As a matter of fact, I'll go light across there. That feels good. Come back here. And once you get the rhythm and the routine so you can move a lot faster, and you don't have to spend a lot of time on your roughing out. One trick though is, this is a 12-inch tool rest. This is a 12-inch blank. I need to stop the lathe and bring the tool rest and move it over to make my next cut. Because the important thing is that you always have tool rest out to the end where you're going to go. You want to wind up someplace so you don't go off the wood. So I'm going to rough this out the rest of the way. Then we're going to start making the shape for the handle, for the pull handle for the string top. Now we're ready to make the really neat shapes that are going to be on this handle. And the best way to do that is with a spindle gouge. This one right here is a 1/2 inch spindle gouge with what you'd call a normal grind pretty much. It doesn't go very far around the corner. This is good for long, slow beads like you would see on the handle right here. Not this end, but this end right here. This is a great tool for that because it's like driving a Cadillac, big, soft, and cushy. But when you want to make the smaller beads, you actually want to use a smaller spindle gouge because it's more nimble. It'll turn faster. This one still has a regular grind on it. And the thing I like to do to them actually is I like to put a swept back grind on mine. So here's another spindle gouge. It's the same spindle gouge, but look at the edge I put on there. And with that swept-backed edge, I can cut with more of the side here to help me make better shapes. It also clears out more of the metal so I can make the curves and make the beads. So the first thing I want to do is to get my handle here and find a pencil. I always have one handy somewhere. And I want to turn the lathe on. And I'm going to bring the speed down a little bit. We're not going to go crazy here. I'm going to match this up to the wood right there. And I want to make marks so I can kind of duplicate this shape again. And I'm going to put that right there. I want this symmetrical. So there's going to be a bead there. Then we're going to have a shape here. And then we go all the way down to the handle down there. This might change once I get that far. But now that I have those marks, I can start moving some wood. So I'm going to grab my swept back spindle gouge and start rolling. So I make a cut and I turn the tool and I lift the handle just a little bit. You've got it into my side, but you got to have a little freedom. You don't want to have it in there really tight. If you're holding it too tightly against your hip, you're not going to be able to make the motion up that you need to make. So you can see the wood's moving away really nicely, and I'm making the bead, and as I always like to say, you sneak up on a bead. Now the whole idea I want here is I want a nice curve shape, and don't stick that into the wood like that either. It's not a good thing. This is going to be waste wood down here. So I'm going to come over here and start making my curve. And I'm not going to follow my old design exactly because as you get to turning, you're going to find some things just happen. You know, serendipities there. All of a sudden a shape comes into mind and you just go with it. I like turning that way. It's a lot of fun. Sometimes you wind up with something a little funky looking. Sometimes you wind up with something that's really awesome looking. So you can see I'm making my curves. Kind of looks like a pill bottle right now, or a pill. We'll make the bottle later. So now this is where I want to put in my bead. You can see the bead right there, so I need to clear out wood on this side to start making the bead there. So we'll come over to here and start doing this. It's almost like a V-cut. You don't really have to do a lot of curve. And then I want to bring this down, so I'm just using it like a roughing gouge. I'm sweeping it back and forth. So that's my height. Now, here comes the fun part. I'm going to turn and take that point right into the wood there. This shape is determined by the shape of the tool. You can see the angle it makes. I can't make anything more aggressive than that, or the sides will start hitting. So there's the start of my bead right there. Now I want to curve in like so here. This is going to be a little bit lower. I'm going to come back like this, and you just kind of work your way into the bead. You don't rush it. You just start making the shape. So I'm going to curve it like this. Now you can see the roundness of the bead starting. And I'm doing this from side to side so I can make sure I have my symmetry as I do that. That looks really good. Now I'm going to start removing some of the wood here and we're going to start making the next shape on the handle. Now I've been removing this wood and I'm just using my body to swing and scoop out the wood, basically. And then I'm just blending the point in the middle where they meet. What I want, though, is a curve to continue the entire way because I don't want a straight flat there. I want a nice dished curve all the way. Now, it's not going to be a very deep curve, but it's going to have a little bit of flow to it. And when you have a shape like that, the eye likes it better. That's the reason I'm doing it. Also, the other thing is when you're pulling the top, this is a great place to rest your thumb. Now, I want to use a shape up here. I want to do a straight angle going in. And so I'm using the bevel of the tool. You can see it's aiming exactly where I'm going. It tells me what I'm going to be able to do. So I go right into that bead, and I'm just going to clean up the edge right there. This is dark wood, so it's a little hard to see. But now I want to mimic. You get that little bump out there. You can be a perfectionist when you do this. I want to mimic that shape over here. And that way we have some nice symmetry going on. That looks nice. Now I want to start curving out this handle part, so I'm going to have to switch to a bigger spindle gouge for that.
Tim's American Beauty was made by Robust Tools, America's premier lathe manufacturer. Quality hardened tool rests and live centers too. Robust. Built to turn wood. Enjoyed for a lifetime.
Welcome to a new level of professional wood turning tools. Made by a wood turner for wood turners.